Assalamu alaikum. Good morning to those who are joining from Asia, the Middle East, and Europe, and good afternoon to those who are joining from Australia and New Zealand. Welcome to the Halal in Travel Global Summit 2024. I take this opportunity to welcome everyone for joining us today at the Halal in Travel Global Summit 2024, hosted by Crescent Rating. In this session, we will discuss the topic of upskilling the Muslim lifestyle industry talent in the age of AI. I'm joining you from Sydney. I'm Irshad Kader, CEO of Globothink Halal Industry Consulting Services for Australasia and the Middle East. I have been in the travel retail and hospitality industries in Australia, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East for over 30 years. In addition, I'm actively involved in the global halal tourism industry development initiatives and presented several research papers at the World Halal Summit held in Istanbul and other halal industry related conferences held in other countries. Alhamdulillah. I'm extremely happy to be the moderator for this session. The Muslim lifestyle industry, as you know, is a vibrant and growing sector involving various areas such as fashion, food, travel, and finance. However, with the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, AI, it's crucial for talent within this industry to adopt and upskill to remain competitive and innovative. In this session, we will explore the impact of AI on the Muslim lifestyle industry, identify the skills required to thrive in this new landscape, and discuss strategies for upskilling and talent development. To discuss this important topic, we have two special distinguished guests today joining this session to share their thoughts. Let me introduce our first guest to the audience, who is none other than Brother Zhagum Arsyad, who is the CEO of Loft 25 Limited in the UK. Loft 25 is a design-led brand specializing in innovative home and garden furnishing that brings comfort and value to customers. Also, he is heading another IT company. I'm sure he will be stating that in a few minutes. And Zhagum is a committed and leading entrepreneur across multiple sectors. From small beginnings, his passions fuel his mission to foster positive change grounded in Islamic values, of course. His journey centers around community empowerment and inspiring a life of purpose. Our second guest today, who is Brother Nabeel Shariff, Director, GMW Network. Nabeel is the director and part of the founding team of the GMW Network. The GMW Network is a platform that creates workcation experiences designed to bring together Muslim change makers to innovate and collaborate. Nabeel spent the 2010s spearheading the concept of Muslim-friendly travel experiences. Nabeel founded Serendipity, TaylorMade, and Rihala.com, providing thousands of enthusiastic Muslim travelers with exceptional desire to travel experiences from Japan to Argentina. Here we go. So we have a very interesting panel to talk about this important topic. And so if I may start, the first question from Brother Zhagum Arsyad: how is AI reshaping the skill requirements within the halal industry? And what are the emerging skills professionals need to acquire?
We've seen a dramatic shift in the last 12 months or so in terms of AI coming into all of our lives. And it's a repeat of, in my opinion, the dot-com boom of the early 2000s, which some of us are old enough to remember, and the great opportunities it presented at the time. And AI is that now moment, it seems, again, where we've got a dramatic shift in nearly every type of industry. Everybody is using AI. We're going to be seeing it applied across many different industries. And one of the things we wanted to do in our group of businesses was to develop a company that would be able to harness it within our group, at least. At the start was the first thought. And so we see that being applied across our manufacturing and e-commerce and many other facets of the business. In the Muslim lifestyle sector, there's really a lot of room for growth. So in the early 2000s, you had sites like lastminute.com start, where the concept of being able to self-serve when making travel bookings was a completely new thing, and we were all taken, by storm by this, right? We loved that we didn't have to go to the travel agent and ask them, when can I go on this next trip? You could go and browse all the deals and look for these like last minute kind of bargains. Now with AI, I'm advising a company at the moment that is trying to build an AI that will enable you to find the ideal secondhand car for your needs. And instead of trawling through lots of sites and looking for which car you should buy, which brand, which mileage suits you, what's it called, model, and all of this, you don't need to do that when you can put in your needs, and AI can work out for you exactly which is the right car at the right age at the right price for you and your family's needs. Now, applying that to the Muslim lifestyle industry, we can say, putting in your preferences and your past history, which trips you enjoyed, what you like, and what your budget is, and we can build tools now that would be able to really tailor make a package just for you. And that's a great opportunity, because especially for the Muslim lifestyle industry, because our needs are quite specific. What suits everybody doesn't necessarily suit us. We have specific needs, which are hard to define, because you're trying to see, okay, well, is this place going to be suitable for my family? Is it going to be exactly what we need? And is it going to be, within our budget? And does it have masjids? There are a lot of factors that, need to be addressed. And AI has the ability to do that rapidly and at scale. It's very seamlessly. And some of our experience has been, building AI tools for the medical field. And that's like highly complicated. You're trying to work out the symptoms of a patient from what they're telling you, and looking at their history and working out what the risk factors might be based on their age and their gender. And it's working out all of this in seconds and saying, I think you need to take the following precautions and you better go and see a doctor right now. You are an urgent case. So we built that like in a few months, and it's being deployed across the UK at the moment. And so what we see, I think, in the lifestyle industry is a lot of opportunity. Now, how do we address that in terms of the skills needed? Is, I think, we have a lot of skills across the Muslim world that are highly underutilized. And really, that's the thesis behind the company that we founded in Pakistan, basically, because we could see there was all this talent in tech, underutilized, underpaid, and it was not connected to the global economy the way it should be, especially in small towns where we went and launched our operations and academies. So there's a lot of skills to harness already exist. What could we build on? I think universities are really far behind. They, especially in the Muslim world, I think that they've got a long way to come, in terms of catching up with this revolution. And it reminds me of the dot-com boom again, is that I had friends who were coming straight out from school, skipped university, went straight into the industry, and had a great career because they didn't have this baggage of old learning from the university setting. And I think maybe we need to repeat that model again and put people straight into practical application of AI into companies, something that I think we can trial really easily just by opening up internships, opening up learning opportunities and work experiences. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to upskill the workforce on a practical level, rather than bogging them down in theoretical learning which is what universities will specialize in. So those are some of my first thoughts on what we need to be doing.
Yeah, it's very interesting point, Brother Zhagum, you mentioned about underutilized skills in the Muslim world. It's absolutely a very important a statement that you made, actually. I mean, we see that there are a lot of underutilized skill sets available in the market. So if we all can together a proper plan and where we can also contribute back to our lifestyle industry. So it's very interesting. If I may ask the same question with Brother Nabeel, how is AI reshaping the skill requirements within the halal industry, and what are the emerging skills professionals need to acquire from your perspective?
Thank you very much, Brother Irshad. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for joining this session. I want to preface this by saying that I'm not an AI expert. And there's nothing to say, on Brother Irshad's inviting me on here. But the perspective that I actually want to take to this is that before we look at what AI does to shape Muslim lifestyle brands and Muslim lifestyle projects, we need to understand why we're using it. What's the purpose of AI? Why are we implementing all this tech? And in a way, if you don't know what precedes it, it's like putting engines on a plane and not knowing how to fly it. So there's three things that I believe every business or every startup, or even in your personal life, you need to understand. First of all, you need to know where you're coming from. You need to know your data, right? AI is driven very much by data. If you're not proficient in data, then you don't really know what your AI algorithms or your generative AI is actually going to do for you. So my first go to would always be look up at the data. What do we have? What information do we have that AI is actually going to help us simplify, or it's going to help us understand? So that's my first one. The second one is cognitive insights. What is it that AI is going to show us? What is it going to show us, and what is it going to show our users? As a user, like, what do I want to get from typing in something into an AI fueled website? I want to get insights. I want to know what's best for me and my needs. So insights would be the second one. If you don't know how to create insights, go back to data management 101 and learn that. The third part is engagement, and this is where a lot of us go towards when we think AI. We think, oh, how are we going to engage with our users? And that's cool. Like, absolutely, engage with your users. I would say you need to know steps 1 and 2 before you get to engaging your users. I think there was a piece of research by Deloitte a few years ago that showed that AI was actually aimed to be used as an engagement tool in 51 or 52% of all business cases. So it is a really important part. And I'll come at it from a travel industry perspective, where I think that as an engagement piece of technology, I'd love to know how AI can help me decide where I want to go next. I'd love for AI to understand, my decision-making process when I'm, creating a booking. But guess what? We go back to data. Like, without knowing my data preference, without knowing me, and we can have a whole discussion on data and privacy, but without knowing that information first, there's no way you can really understand your engagement levels when it comes to using AI. So I think, to answer, to come back to the question, skill requirements, before we start, fueling up the plane and putting the engines on, we need to know how to fly it. So learn your data, learn about your customer. And I always say, from day one, whatever you're sort of building out a business, know your customer like you know your friends. Because if you don't know them like your friends, then you're literally dealing with strangers.
That's a very interesting point, Brother Nabeel. Get to know your customer first, and also let them be your friends. Of course, they don't want to deal with the strangers, of course. Brother Zhagum, if you can tell us some examples of successful upskilling initiatives within the halal industry that have led to significant advancement or innovations?
I would say we're still in the infancy of this industry. But in terms of upskilling, some of our personal experience here has been creating small academies And when we say an academy, literally it is a room with 12 computers. And you now have a space where you can bring in talent and bring in the experts to train them. And my experience has been engaging with Muslim talent around the world, experts around the world, and saying, look, would you be willing to train young people who are highly capable but haven't got the same opportunities that you had? Would you be willing to come in and do this, right? And we've been building people up in things like Microsoft Dynamics and in things like web design and web apps, and we've been building people up in those skills, which inevitably now are utilizing AI because we're very Microsoft integrated, and Microsoft's been leading on the AI side. So we've got lots of AI tools being built. How did we train these teams? We've gathered talent. We've had lots of assessments and tests and tried to take the top kind of 2 or 3% of talent from local institutions in Pakistan, put them into an academy, and put them through a few months of quite intensive training. And a lot of that is technical skills, but actually a big part of it is mindset, trying to teach them how to think outside of the box and be very experimental. There's no such thing as failure in the environment we're trying to create for them, and say, if anything, you'll only learn. So experiment, take on projects, see what happens, break things. And what we're discovering in that process is they're starting to be able to build really great, insightful tools that talk to the data. As Brother Nabeel mentioned, data is really key here. You've got to be able to clean that data. It's got to be really, the powerhouse of everything you build is built upon it. But it takes a lot of effort to get that data in the right format and be accessible by the AI tools. Are essentially the brain that needs previous information, and the previous information is this data set. We find that the most effort needs to go into having people who are specialists in data and being able to decipher what your organization's information, how to present it, how to organize it. And then you'll build lots of tools, but you can build those yourself. So we've got this now concept of citizen developers, where you talk to an AI to build. I was getting a demo from somebody yesterday. You can build multiple apps for your company in an hour, just saying, look, this is what I want, and it will build it for you. But most of them won't work until you have very good data for it to be accessing. So I think the experience we've had is create the resources across the whole chain. You need machine learning people. You need people who are very adept at data and analytics. You put all those things in place, and the AI part then is much easier to then build out.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, Brother Zhagum. You mentioned about, of course, data is number one. Of course, that's the key, as Brother Nabeel said. Now, the college that you're talking about, or the academy you're talking about, is it only in Pakistan, or have you spread it across Muslim countries? Or if you can give us a brief note about it.
So currently, it's only in Pakistan. So we started there, and we're building a model where we repeat the academy in small towns of Pakistan. So we're staying away from the big cities because we feel they have enough provision. We're focusing on small towns, creating employment and skills in these towns with 100,000 population or less. And by building that template, we then look to export it to the rest of the Muslim world and say, look, copy what we are doing. Take our syllabus, take our learning, take our structures, and repeat it. Because ultimately, what we would like to see is 1 million people being trained around the Muslim world to work remotely in the leading technology of the time. If we can create that fertile ground, then inshallah, there'll be lots of barakah that they'll be able to. Other better people than us will be able to take it much further. We're trying to create the model that can be easily repeated.
Yeah, very good initiative, Brother Zhagum, because end of the day, we always talk about the front in the numbers. We say $3.2 trillion industry at the moment. Some say $5 trillion industry, the global halal industry I'm talking about, apart from I mean, it's all inclusive. However, if you don't have the capacity to sort of develop to the next level, and that means we will not grow, as you rightly said. I mean, we need to have the right talents, right pool of talents in every segment of halal industry. I'm sure, I mean, this effort will be a really good one. As we know, I mean, India is supplying to the entire world, of course, Silicon Valley to any part of the world. The IT professionals are being going from two locations. One is from Bangalore, other one is from Hyderabad. So these are the two major cities that we see in the world. The IT professionals are being developed and sent. So it's a fantastic initiative. May Allah accept all your efforts. And I think we need to have this. And it's a good model. And if any other countries wants to get the same model or to get the same kind of concept to be implemented, how can they contact and whom they should be contacting you?
Sure. I mean, they can contact me on LinkedIn, also through the company. It's cloudsearch.uk is our main website. Happy to talk to anyone who wants to repeat what we do. We're very open. Our aim is not to kind of hold knowledge back, is to spread it. So if we've learned something, we don't want someone to have to go through that and learn it again. They should just literally take what we have and build upon it, because that's how progress happens faster.
Fantastic. Jazakallah khair for sharing your contact details, because those who are attending today's our conference, I'm sure this will be a very important piece of information where we can also have the similar model, which has been already tested and it's working well in Pakistan. Even other countries, we can do the same, inshallah. Let me move on to Nabeel, Brother Nabeel, Shariff. What are some of the challenges faced by the halal industry in integrating AI technologies, and how can upskilling the workforce address these challenges from your perspective?
I'm going to add in another variation to the word upskilling, and I'm going to add in reskilling as well. I think that AI has come across and come upon us for those that were not in AI or Web3 or that side of technology as, oh, this is the new tool that we have to embrace and we have to be able to be part of it. And you simply can't obviously just replace your whole workforce with people that are just in AI. You need a hybrid, you need a blend, you need people who understand the technology, who can decide whether you're going to work on deep data, or you're going to you're going to build out a database that is going to be future-proof for the next 5 to 10 years. And then you also need people in your team that are reskilled to understand what AI means, but also take on all of the experience and the know-how of what your industry faces. And when it comes to halal industry, we've got so many different sectors, right? We're specifically talking about lifestyle. So let's take fashion as an example. How do we upskill the fashion industry to be able to integrate AI when we are looking at simply trying to break through with modest fashion? Like, which one actually takes precedence? Is it the reskilling? Is it the upskilling? Is it that fact that we need to embed ourselves more in this X trillion-dollar industry? So I would say, if you do run an organization, however big, you could be a startup with 2 co-founders, you could be an organization with 100 people. Look at where you're going to make the most impact, both within your organization, so your internal processes, and your customer experience. If you feel that you're going to add value to your customer, let's take the fashion industry, by being able to overlay augmented reality on somebody's phone with how a hijab would look on a system, right? Great, do it. Understand what that value means. And if you feel that the value that your customer is getting is X number, the impact of or the cost of you having to reskill your workforce, go for it. I'll tell you now, it's probably going to be a multiple in terms of value and impact. You just got to work out whether that's valuable to you and your customers. So I think the first question is upskill versus reskill. I like a bit of both. I also say that one of the challenges is access. Like, where can you learn about upskilling or reskilling? Like, where are you going to get all this information from? Alhamdulillah, there are plenty of places now, and a lot of institutions and initiatives that are really sort of spearheading what AI in the Muslim consumer behavior space looks like. How we organize that is a question I think we all got to ask ourselves. It's not as accessible as going to, I don't know, like a Y Combinator style website. It's like suddenly you've got X number of courses. We don't necessarily have that specifically for the Muslim space. And there are other things that we need to consider. We need to consider the ethical basis of using AI. What are we using it for? Is it in line with our values? Does it add barakah to our overall business? Like, we've got to ask all of these questions to ourselves. And then we also need to find spaces that are able to align with those values. So I think those are probably some of the challenges. And, I welcome everybody listening and here, to work within your spaces, rally amongst your communities of industry and say, okay, there might be, 5 travel companies that are doing some great stuff, work together to work out what AI can do to enhance the value, not to just your customer, but to the Muslim customer. And inshallah, the more that we build and collaborating around AI, the more value it will be for everybody.
Absolutely. Collaboration is something is very key at the moment. It could be fashion industry, or maybe even travel and tourism, or even food sector. So collaborative approach, I'm sure it's going to be our aim for everyone, those who are participating in this session. As Brother Nabeel said, let us work together and build the capacity of our industry sectors, especially the stakeholders in every segment of the halal industry. So if I may ask, so it's going again with the upskilling and reskilling part. So if I may touch this subject with Brother Zhagum, what role do educational institutions play in preparing the future workforce for the digital needs of the halal industry? I know you touched this topic from in our first question, but I want you to elaborate a bit more. So what role do educational institutions play in preparing the future workforce for the digital needs of the halal industry?
My kind of unpopular opinion, I think, on this is that universities are not the place. And I say this with, like, I've got 2 daughters at university right now, and I'm paying a lot of money for this, and so it's not like I'm against universities for every career or industry, but I feel in tech that they can give you a good grounding and let the people gain that grounding. So they've got their degrees in computer science and in data, and that's okay. I think that's needed, that you need that first start. From there, I think it needs to be much more innovative in terms of progression, and we can create that environment as Muslim companies. One of my projects in my city, in Birmingham, where I live, is that all Muslim companies should have permanent internship seats. They should have permanent work experience seats in their company. When people tell me that they have a great business and they're doing really well, the thing I direct them to is, and so how many people are you building?
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, you're successful. That's very nice. But Allah gave you that. What did you do? And are you constantly bringing those skills to people who don't have them? I have 4 desks in my office that are always used. And I want people sitting there. I want them to be learning from other team members. When I meet other businesses, I say to them, look, if you have a spare time, come and spend 1 day a week in our office and learn marketing, or learn, sales, or learn, e-commerce, or whatever we know. Gain that knowledge and do it. And I think we need to do that from a tech perspective. Well, I'm speaking later on today at Warwick University, and one of the things that I'm trying to instill there is in the students is offer your services to companies in the Muslim sector and say, what could I come and do that you don't have? Maybe like an AI audit almost, because you'll be surprised how many people don't even use ChatGPT. And I'm like, really? Like, you don't know about this? Like, like from the day it came out, I didn't sleep for 2 days. And, like we were on it quickly, and like we immediately, integrated it across everything we do. And that was like a first step. And people haven't even taken that step yet. And so I feel like we need to bring Muslim companies and Muslim students together to accelerate their learning, because that's the real world problems that need to be solved. And then that then sets their mind running on what do we need to be learning in order to solve these problems. Whereas when they're learning in isolation across our university system, they're kind of like very theoretical, and then they start their first job and they're like, oh, okay, so I need to solve real problems. And I feel that's when the education really starts. And we can accelerate that, especially in a fast moving industry like AI right now. We can do that really, rapidly if we bridge that gap sooner, bring them in and say, here are my business problems. How could you look at this? And I'm looking like this summer, I'm looking forward to welcoming lots of students on board in my companies with this, exactly this. This is going to be the brief. How can you improve what we do with technology that maybe we haven't even thought about, looked at, we don't understand yet? And that's fresh eyes looking at our business problems. Now we are the experts in the problem. We encounter it every day. They don't even know. So if you bring someone into the halal travel industry, the average person will have no idea the challenges actually that the business faces and the issues that they should solve. But yet they probably are able to bring fresh perspective. And I'd want one more thing here is I feel every company should and must have an innovation department. You have to have this small team to the level that you can afford. If you have a big budget, great, have a development team. I was speaking to a company that's spending multiple six figures on this right now. They have an in-house AI research and development team. They can afford that. Most of us can't afford that. So, but you can afford some level of this. That could be a team in a lower cost country. Malaysia often comes up for this. They've got great skills and they've got great talent there. Pakistan's probably one of the cheapest countries in the world right now for this kind of labor force. And so you can afford a team. You're just not looking wide enough. And I've given teams at the cost of such a low cost, less than the cost of one minimum wage person in the UK. I can give you a team of 3 people in Pakistan, and have done, and said, let that be your innovation center. Throw your problems at them and let them work on those problems. But you won't feel the cost. It's not like the cost is some massive thing that, how will I pay this? It's your little experimental, it's your little chemistry set that you're like trying different things and formulas and seeing what can I produce. And we've done that. And we've ended up with lots of tools within our company that has saved us hundreds of hours, and the way we operate, because we know our problem. We throw our problem at them and we say, we'll see you in 6 weeks. We work in 6-week increments. We say, you have 6 weeks to work on this project and produce what you can produce, and there will be no extensions. Produce me something. And they're having to sit down and go, I've only got 6 weeks. I've got to move fast. I've got to learn quickly. I've got to produce something that's going to be usable by the company. And so we're ending up with a small tool, and it can be very simple. It can be a tool that just saves one of your senior team 1 hour a day. If you can produce that tool, then why would you not, if it's like a low cost innovation team? So I think we can move quite rapidly if we're unorthodox in how we do it.
Yeah, it is a very important point that you mentioned. There are 2 things that I really grasped. One is innovation department, establishment of an innovation department. It could be an SME either. When you can have even a small scale innovation department which really innovate. And unfortunately, I have seen, I've traveled around the world, and I've met a lot of Muslim entrepreneurs. They do not focus on innovation to the extent of the other communities are focusing at. So this is very unfortunate. And as you rightly mentioned, even some entrepreneurs do not know the benefits of having ChatGPT, and they haven't used it. It's absolutely, I mean, it's sometimes, you feel, oh, why not? Why haven't you tried this? So to that extent, could be one is the mindset, as you rightly mentioned previously. The mindset is something key for our entrepreneurs to sort of look at things, not more orthodox manner. So to come out of the cocoon, come out of the box, think outside the box, and see what's happening around you. And it's a competitive world. If you don't change, the customers will change you. So it is something that you need to look at. The technology is ever evolving, and I mean, how best you can help. The second point that you mentioned, it was really important. I think those who are participating in today's conference will, I mean, I'm sure they will appreciate, is providing internship opportunities for young graduates in your organization. So that's something very important. Get this fresh blood into your system. Maybe you don't need to provide them permanent positions if you don't want to. At least get their latest knowledge, the updates, and see how best they can resolve your problems and issues, as Brother Zhagum mentioned. So these are two things that I really, I really want to insist to the audience, those who are here today. Brother Zhagum, just before I move on to Brother Nabeel, do you have any examples that you can provide within your client circle of how the internship can be initiated by the organizations?
Brilliant. I'm glad you asked me that. I wanted to jump in with this extra point. Is I learned this lesson during COVID when my daughter, my eldest daughter, she was 16 at the time, and she went and did a project with the NHS as one of the youngest employees in the NHS, running a volunteer campaign to produce PPE. And because we were producing it as volunteers, and they wanted to replicate our campaign, and they took her in, and she went and did this. That I saw as a father, what I saw was this developed her whole trajectory of her career, because she didn't go into a work experience placement and make coffee. She didn't do basic stapling and just useless tasks. She was given a project. You have 1,500 volunteers, you have staff of 12, you are managing it, and you are 16 and it's your first experience in a workplace. And what happened in the 12 weeks she was there? She thrived. She realized that I have management skills. I know how to project manage and motivate people and deal with conflict, and all of these skills suddenly developed in her. And she thought, I need to be a CEO, is what she concluded. And she said, I'm going to go work in the charity sector as a CEO. That's my life trajectory. So that really set her up. Now, what I learned from that is give internship projects to people. Is don't give them this open-ended, you're an intern, okay, first day, what should we tell them to do? You don't want this kind of lazy environment. You want instead a meaty project, and give it to two people at the same time to do the same thing. And I'm developing new products like this now. So I'm talking to design students and saying, I've got an idea. How could we aid the lifestyle of Muslims by making wudu easier when they are on the move? Here's a project for you. Here's a project for you. Same brief. Independently go and work on it. I'll see you in 12 weeks. Yeah. And when they're coming back, they're having to have go through a lot, right? They've had to research and develop it, and that as an offer is much better than saying, come and intern with me and you have no plan. Project-based internships.
Correct. And also, one of the things that I just want to highlight here is the generation that we are dealing with, Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Of course, they're emerging in the year or two. They like to take on challenges, as you rightly said. Give them projects and also empower them and give the freedom of choice and let them make their own decisions. Let them make mistakes and they learn, and that's how you build them. It's not the way that we were grown. And of course, this is where I think some entrepreneurs, they feel, yes, no, we should not give them the empowerment at this stage. They are just freshers. They just came out of the universities, and we have to tell them what to do and how to do things. I think this mindset has to change as well. Let me move on to the next question, Brother Nabeel. How can organizations within the halal sector foster a culture of continuous learning to keep pace with the rapid advancement of AI?
Good question. I would love for people to ask the question to themselves and say, what is it that you actually want to see within the halal industry when it comes to AI? I would say that at the moment, there are a limited number of solutions out there that are really sort of embracing AI. And it's not unsurprising, we're still very early in terms of, understanding what this can do. But similar to what Zhagum mentioned earlier, is that if you don't sort of jump onto the technology as it comes out, you're going to be left behind. And as an industry, over the last 20 odd years, we've kind of seen that. We've always been chasing our tails a little bit in terms of, keeping up with technology. Let's take, the travel industry as an example. You had the likes of Expedia and Last Minute come out, in the 2000s, and it wasn't really until the mid 2010s till we saw actually a dynamic booking engine that was able to service Muslim clients. Look at the same with fashion. Look at the same with a lot of different technologies. That said, there's some brilliant examples of successes. Tertil. If anybody has ever used Tertil, it's probably one of the most dedicated apps that is using AI for you to read and understand the Quran. If you look at the way that social media has embraced the use of AI in particular, and being able to change the engagement levels between them and their brands, that's another great way that we're seeing strategies being adopted by the halal industries. What I'd like to see though is probably more things that are functional. When ChatGPT came out, the whole of the travel industry, not just the Muslim travel industry, the whole of the travel industry was thinking, well, how can we use that to create itineraries? And I was thinking, yeah, that's cool, but surely, is that to help reduce the time of the consultant? Is it embedded into a website so that you can literally put in, something like, I'm looking for a Muslim-friendly holiday. I want it to be sunny. I don't want to spend more than £5,000 or dollars, and I have 3 children. Where should I go? Right? If AI could, if the response from that could tell you, hey, why don't you go to Marbella? Why don't you go to Kuala Lumpur? Why don't you go to the Maldives? And it gives you, these ideas, but also gives you a way for, whether it's pricing or whether it's suggestions, or give you a ballpark figure on what it's going to look like. Suddenly it becomes really useful. So going back to, what I mentioned at the beginning is like, what do you want for yourself? What, as a user? Think about you as the user and what you want that to be. Then start implementing those strategies. The other thing I'd love to see more of is nurturing partnerships within tech as well. I think there is a lot of knowledge that you don't have to learn yourself. So if you start to create partnerships with other organizations and educational institutions, as Zhagum has mentioned, suddenly you're starting to create an ecosystem of AI. So you don't have to learn it all yourself. You don't have to bring it in-house for every different type of technology or learning, but partner with institutions, and it could be cross sector as well. The Muslim lifestyle sector is actually quite unique in the sense that ultimately we're all very value aligned. So whether you are selling a commodity item, or whether you are selling a service item, you are ultimately going to be value aligned in terms of what your ultimate customer, the Muslim customer, wants from it. So there is a lot of room, in my opinion, for partnering / collaborating. It doesn't always have to be pro bono. You could, formulate commercial agreements. You can, utilize different ways to share data, again, from the habits of your consumers, to ultimately provide them with better products and services. But ultimately, I'd like us to also just learn from what's happening from a macro environment. Like, we often get sucked in to think the halal industry is worth X amount, which it is. It's a huge industry, but when we really break it down, you got to look at what your serviceable market is. And we've been having the discussion for the last 10 years. It's a fraction of the X number of $1 trillion. So, please look at what is your serviceable market before you start sort of thinking, okay, I need to invest X amount into this, or I need to develop this because this is going to be the next big thing. Really understand what your market looks like, what the size is, what it needs, what it wants, and what you're capable of delivering.
Yeah, it's actually it's a very important point that to understand your the market, also your customers, and also your capacity and how much you can spend, and the nature of business you are in, and before you get any decision on your investment part when it comes to technology. If I may ask this question from Brother Zhagum, in what ways can AI be used to streamline halal certification? So halal certification is very important point in the halal lifestyle industry. So in what ways can AI be, artificial intelligence be used to streamline halal certification processes, and what skills are necessary to implement and manage these AI solutions?
I would say the problem here is a wider one than just halal certification. I think we're going to need to develop. I mean, we don't think big enough as an ummah, unfortunately. And who's building the generative AI model that understands the Muslim context and the Muslim mind? So we would need an AI model that understands the rules of fiqh. We need to be training them. We need to be, that needs to exist for us, right? So that we're able to put in criteria and put in requirements, and it can apply the rules of fiqh to it, not in replacement of ijtihad, full stop, but in terms of augmenting it. It's like a second brain, which is, how I use AI is it's a second brain for me, right? I have my own mind and I'm going to do my own things and, have my own thoughts. But I can use AI to just speed things up and look on the, it's a second view. What does AI think that, I should be focusing on in my business right now? Or if I'm going to develop a new product, what could be the things that could go wrong? Give me a list of 50 things. Oh, okay, I didn't think of that particular one. But I'm doing my own thinking, but I'm using that as my second brain. And I think that we should be, doing the same thing with the ummah at large. We need to be creating our own models in the first instance. Then things like certification are much easier to do because you're able to then feed in criteria that will apply Islamic rules to work out whether something is compliant or not. Because certification is important, but there's a lot of factors involved. I mean, there's nuances, right? Like to every part of this. Is a hotel, can we certify that as a halal place? Well, it doesn't sell alcohol, that's great. So, okay, I'm happy with that aspect. But there are so many other factors, right? Do I want to be in a hotel where, there's an issue of, how much people cover, for example? Well, that's not ideal for me, but when I do go on holiday, that's normally not something I can fulfill. So I'm going to end up with a place that, it's going to have, people from all walks of life. So how do you then give a certification? What's a certification for in particular, right? There'll be so many different aspects to it. But I think AI can help here. It can speed up the ability to certify something and take in lots of different factors, maybe segment it so you can have 20 different certifications, whereas before we would only give somebody one stamp saying, yep, halal. We can now maybe have a score, we can have, a scale, we can have, potential scale, which would be very motivating, I think, in the industry, is that you could achieve this level if you made the following kind of changes, and we can augment our thinking here. But I think overall, we need models that are going to be trained in fiqh that can go into some detail of whether something is halal or not. I'm thinking from the meat industry here, because that's often something which is disputed. People, one person's halal doesn't seem to be the other person's halal anymore.
Correct.
And we have differences. So I'm wondering if we can create a moving scale here and say, this fulfills all of these criteria. We're not saying to you, yes, it's just halal, that's done. Well, it's a bit more, it's not so black and white. There's going to be lots of gray. But let's maybe use AI to work out the gray in more detail, so you know exactly where it sits.
Yeah, absolutely. And as rightly said, I mean, it's a second brain. I mean, AI is a second brain to us. That's how you should be treating it. And also, when it comes to certification, as you rightly mentioned, it's a portion or it's a part of the halal process, of halal supply chain. And also, this is not relevant to this topic, but still, the blockchain technology is being utilized at the moment. And Indonesia is taking the first step, having blockchain technology to trace the halal processes, as well as the logistics, how best you can ensure that the product that you see on the table or dining table, it's halal from farm to fork concept. So that's about how, of course, it's a blockchain technology. But when it comes to AI, I think we need to start, as you rightly mentioned, to develop models and to see how best we can utilize this in the near future. Of course, Brother Nabeel, how can professionals in the halal industry leverage online learning platforms and resources to enhance their AI-related skills? What do you think?
I mean, there's plenty of places that you can go to. Just generally, you've got the likes of online courses from Udemy and Coursera and places like that. Whether they actually deliver what you want, I think is an important question to ask. I would actually like to see more spaces around AI learning from a practical perspective. I think it's important that we look at the real life use of AI rather than necessarily needing to understand the technicalities behind it. And that's how we're going to expedite implementation of AI within halal industries. If we spend a lot of time, as somebody who is leading strategy and direction, understanding the nitty-gritty, then that's actually not going to be as useful as knowing how best to implement it, and just understanding its role within different walks of life. I would also say, you mentioned about standardization and certification, and I say that that's relevant in certain markets. And I think that it's the same with AI. Certain markets will really leverage AI right now. Certain markets won't. If you feel that AI is going to get you to scale and grow, great. However, if you're in a market and an industry where AI is not going to make as much difference to your end user, and you're not going to go from affecting 100,000 users to 1 million users, then you need to sort of address what the needs of that particular market is at that time. I'd love to see, like I said, more education and courses and seminars and everything else in between about the practical use of AI within Muslim consumerism and the halal industry. Is there enough right now? Probably not. And I'm hoping that over the next few months and a couple of years we'll see more. I mean, within the GMW network itself, we've got so many people, alhamdulillah, who are really embracing it. One of our speakers, Saad Ansari, is former head of AI at Jasper, is now sort of leading pilgrim tech for the Ministry of Hajj. And could we, in a couple of years' time, really see the fruits of that team's labor in terms of using technology and AI to improve the experience of the pilgrim going for Hajj or going for Umrah? We had somebody within the network also working on technology to help pilgrims locate them during the Hajj if they get lost, which is great. It's a year perennial problem. So these are practical examples of using technology and AI to improve and benefit the ummah. But I'd also say, what can we do within our values and using our value set to use technology to improve humanity as well? We are very often so confined to only servicing Muslims, but it's a great form of shifting the narrative in the sense that if we can provide solutions that are based on our value set, that's going to improve the lives of Muslims and non-Muslims, then subhanAllah, that can only be a good thing. So let's use our value set, and whatever we learn, wherever we learn it, the practical stuff that we learn around AI and technology, but let's use it and think about the fact that, within every community that we live in around the world, whether you're in a Muslim dominant country or not, you are going to have people that you can service for your business, for your organization, who are not Muslim as well. What can we do with our values to improve their lives as well as the lives of Muslims as well? So let's take learnings from that. And if anybody is interested in using their AI knowledge to create online courses or in-person courses, then I think it can only be a good thing, and help to share knowledge and forms of learning wherever you are, whether it's digitally accessed or in person.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point, how you can utilize your values to serve the entire community, irrespective of which background they are coming from. I think this is the best approach a Muslim can do. Whatever you you are expert in, so make use of it in order to serve the entire community or entire human in the world, so that they also will benefit. And also it's a good example to show that who Muslims are and how Muslims think about fellow human being. So one last question, since we are running out of time, from Brother Zhagum. You mentioned at a point about the partnerships and collaborations. So in brief, if you can tell us what partnerships or collaborations can be formed between the halal industry and tech companies to facilitate effective upskilling programs.
Again, if we focus on innovation rather than just servicing our market, we're building then the future. So if we think long term, we're building the businesses that will thrive and be, huge organizations that will serve all people, not just Muslims. We should, as Brother Nabeel, we really rightly mentioned, we shouldn't be limiting ourselves. We should be creating solutions that are accessed by everyone because they're good, not because, just because, Muslims will buy from us because, it kind of is niched to them. Instead, they should buy because it's the best service. We seem to have lost that what's it called, drive to innovate and build that level of solution. So I think we need to be restoring that spirit and partnering with the companies that can build that as a de facto, that our position should be. How do we really innovate in our space, not just serve the market? And I think, unfortunately, and I don't want to be negative here, but unfortunately, we have got this, general mindset of just trying to be very short-termist. Can we make money? Can we survive? Can we run our company? But Islam is a long-term vision. We think we should be thinking in hundreds of years. We talk about, the nations that think long-term, but we should be the most long-term thinking nation, right, of all, because we are out to please Allah. Allah rewards intentions. And so the results to us aren't as important as our intention for doing good, for the very long term. And if that, I bought land in Pakistan, and, just, what's it called, a few years ago. And I bought this land, and everybody in my town was surprised that I was buying land, because people from the UK, they go back home, they sell their family land, and they come back with the money, right? Because they're not interested. And I was buying land. And they said, what is this land for in this small town, near a village? And I said, it's for the airport. And they said, what airport? Like, we don't have a train station. How are we going to get an airport? And I said, well, when we build what we're going to build, and we're going to become a tech hub, and we're going to have these academies and these skills, and we're going to have thousands of people leading research in these fields, then we're going to have to fly the world's experts in for seminars, right? So we will be needing an airport. And that's sometimes how forward we need to think, I think, and we're lacking that as an ummah. We should be focused on really high goals, and we should have that with our partnerships with tech companies, is give them the vision of, we are the industry, we're your window. Now that I'm involved in a tech company, what I'm finding is that we need access. So when we talk to a company, they need to tell us their real issues and problems and what solutions they could really do with. And then we can build them. Building is easy, but understanding the problem is not so easy for tech people and for tech companies. They don't understand the problems of our industries. So I think we need to bridge that gap and have more conversations.
Absolutely. And it's a very interesting point that you made. Of course, as Muslims, we have to have the long-term vision, and also we should serve the ummah in all aspects, and also be positive mindset. And let's start working on in building a strong ummah, inshallah, which can really serve the entire humanity in the future. Jazakallah khair, and thank you very much for both the guests. So I think we have come to the end of this insightful session. I hope the audience was enlightened with the insightful information on upskilling the Muslim lifestyle industry talent in the age of AI. I take this opportunity to thank our of course, speakers in this session for their valuable contributions. Of course, Brother Zhagum Arsyad, the CEO of Loft 25 Limited from the UK, and also Brother Nabeel Shariff, the Director at GMW Network. At last but not the least, I thank you for joining this session. Do check out the other interesting sessions we have lined up for you today. Thank you once again, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair, everyone.
Wa alaikum salam.